Here's a news flash. You can say what you mean without being mean. One thing that I see so often with school leaders is if their aversion to accountability begins to steal their school culture. So they have this fear of giving feedback, whether it's, positive feedback, not so positive feedback. There's this fear of feedback. And so I'm going to tell you a story of some vulnerability because I think it helps for you to understand that I get it and I know that it's really hard because we fear losing people. We fear holding people accountable because we think they're going to quit. And so instead of holding people accountable and choosing to have those hard conversations, we tell ourselves a story of, maybe it's not that bad. So I had a director for a really, really long time, and my company is Stretch and Grow. So we're an enrichment program, and we go into preschools and child care centers. And so we see what it's like when it's not showtime at the schools, right? We partner with the schools to get the kids moving. And I had a director for 15 years, and for about 13 and a half, she was rock star, amazing A-team. And in that last year and a half, she went through some really challenging personal issues that she wasn't real vocal about. I just knew like there was something wrong. There was this undercurrent of everything is not okay. We've got two crowds of people. We have the people who are okay and the people who are not okay. She was in the not okay crowd for a really long time, and balls began to drop, and so I cared about her personally. But what I failed to do was challenge her directly. And as a result of my aversion to holding her accountable, our culture began to slip. And our team members began to take more liberties than they normally would have because they knew that no one was paying attention to the tension in the school, that no one was inspecting what they expected. And as a result, by the time we got through a year of that, there were lots of things that had happened that were irreversible damage. Turnover was really high. I felt like we lost some of the momentum, some of the respect that we had. And so it took a while to turn it around. The good news, we did turn it around. The hard news is that it was really hard. And I had to look at what my responsibility was in creating a culture of accountability, putting systems of accountability in place, understanding there is a space and time for grace. When things are challenging, we need to be able to communicate and step back. But just because we're having challenging times in life doesn't mean that we can let all of the balls in our job begin to drop. The reason that I felt like I did not want to have these conversations with her, like I said, we've been together a long time, admittedly so, I was afraid of losing my freedom, meaning that she had a lot of the work of our company that was her responsibility. And so I was afraid if I held her accountable and challenged her that she might quit. And if she quit, then all of that work would get put back on my plate and I didn't have the space for it. And I know as owners and directors, that's what we believe as well. You're already short-staffed, it's hard to find great people, and it's the devil that you do know versus the devil that you don't know. So we tell ourselves that story. And so I didn't want to lose my freedom, but I also didn't want to lose my flexibility. With her handling so much of the responsibilities in her area, I had a lot of flexibility to be able to pour into my team and do speaking and do training. And so her job was really important. And the higher level of the position, the harder it is to put systems of accountability in place because those are valuable people. But here's the good news. The people who are the most valuable should hold themselves accountable. So if that's you and you're hearing this, I hope that encourages you to remember that you can say what you mean without being mean. But I also didn't want to lose face. And what that means is that she was very well liked, and rightly so. She was a very likable, she was just a wonderful, wonderful person that was just going through a really hard time. I didn't want to lose face with our team if I were to lose her. Don't let your aversion to accountability kill your culture. And I also want to talk to you about the detriment of delaying conversations because that allows apathy and we become apathetic. So something happens, you want to make sure that you have what I call fit talks. Frequent impromptu talks. Address things immediately. Don't let it go for, wait until the end of the year until you do your evaluation, which, side note, you shouldn't be doing evaluations once a year. You should be doing evaluations at minimum of once a quarter, but I think you should have one-on-one check-ins with your leadership team at least once a month, and same with your teachers. They don't have to be long, they don't have to be complicated, but you need to make sure that you're connecting with these people. Do not let your detriment of delay allow apathy. When it happens, ask for a meeting, be real, be clear, and explain exactly what happened in terms of, hey, I need your help with what just happened, but first, I want to get your feedback. Like, instead of saying, girl, why are you late again? Or why do you miss work so much? Don't allow your emotions to overtake you. So when you feel like you can get into a space, a clear space, to where you kind of shuttle and you think, okay, am I fixing my face? What is my body language like? Because if you approach every encounter like this with the idea of a spirit of unity, and you want to keep unity in your community, and if you want to keep this person in their seat, having conversations that show empathy are going to matter. Hey, I have some ideas that I think may help us work better together. And then say the thing that happened. I've noticed that for the last several weeks, you've shown up about 10 to 15 minutes late for your shift. Are you aware of what your start time is, or what's going on that's keeping you from getting here? And when you unpack that, there could be things that are just challenging in their life. Maybe they're dropping kids off, or they've got some personal situations that are happening. So at that point, you get to decide, do you give grace or do you give space? The one other thing I want to remind you of this. I believe that early education is a calling. I believe teaching is calling. And when people become misaligned with their assignment, then it eliminates that engagement. So I want to ask you, are you and your teachers in alignment with the assignment that you have been given? So as you move into this next season, I just want to ask you, is your aversion of accountability killing your culture? If so, we should talk.